What's up, guys?
Okay, bud.
Welcome
back
to another episode of How Does This Affect LeBron's Legacy?
In this episode, I will be discussing Vikings.
Colin's going to be discussing mushrooms and whatnot, and I'll be discussing the loss of viewership in the NBA. And once again, we're starting off with Spencer, so he can take the floor.
Yes. Okay. So, Vikings, or Vikinger, in Old Norse, has mainly become to be defined as a seafaring pirate or raider originating from the region of Northern Europe called Scandinavia, which is now known in the countries such as Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Greenland, if you count that as something other than Denmark, what's it called? The Åland. And there's some islands that are technically under Norwegian municipality, but the Faroe Islands. That's the final one. So, the time that people consider to be the quote-unquote Viking Age, coming from the National Museum of Denmark, is roughly 800 AD to 1050 AD, with many people considering 1066 AD to be the last year of the Viking Age, with King Harald Hardrada, Harold III, Harold Sigurdsson, whatever you may call him, dying in the Battle of Hastings during the Norman conquest of England. So that was their background. Vikings are these people that they have become not deified, but modern media has come to depict them as these massive hulking brutes. I mean, and to be fair, they kind of are, but they kind of aren't, because of their diet, their genetics, and their lifestyle. Genetics.
They seem more fantasy, honestly. Like how much media
Vikings?
Yeah. Well, people they're portrayed as these people who are like 300 pounds, like 6'7", and whatnot. But
Like what's in the movies?
yeah, like
Do they at least look similar to that?
for the most part, they're not as tall, but like their diet consisted of mainly protein. If you look at it, their diet is actually what you would consider to be good for this
I did
year.
not land that.
If you were trying to build weight and muscle, they have 35% fat, or 35% protein, 35% fats, and 30% carbohydrates, leading towards a very good diet, which caused them to be a few inches taller than the average, with males averaging around 5'8", which is and females averaging around 5'2" or 5'3", depending on where you get your source from, which is slightly taller than the averages. And they were also a lot more built, because at this time you mainly had like serfs and whatnot who in England and Europe who are underfed. They're not, they don't get as much food, they don't have as much freedom, their lifestyles are quite different. So Vikings and their ability to eat fish because they live by the coast, which are filled with protein, and of how they live, farming, shipbuilding, raiding, they live a very active lifestyle and are supplemented by all of this protein, causing them to put on a lot of weight, most of which is muscle, causing people to think of them as giants because they're a few inches taller and a lot heavier than what you would think a person of that time would look like.
I can give you uppies, Colin.
No.
Keep talking, Spencer.
Yeah. The Vikings, watch
Watch me harass.
Okay.
Keep talking.
They've become depicted as these like raging berserkers, and Colin will explain why that is. But not all people were like that. They had not all of their warriors. They had specific regiments, not special forces, but
Ow! That hurt my shoulder.
they had berserkers, which are these special people that are, you're like bigger than average, stronger than average people. That Colin explained why they are the way they are when he gets to his topic. And it's also been, they are the true ones that are like actually berserking. Most are just normal fighters.
What do you mean by berserking?
Well, see, normal Viking fighting is you get in the shield wall, which is kind of like a phalanx or something. You lock your shields together, and you let the enemy come to you. You have your archers at the back, and you have your spears or your swords, and you drag people in behind the shield wall, and you kill them.
Colin, can you come help act this out? Act this out.
You want to stab?
You can be like the shield wall or something.
So like, if you want to stab, if you were in the shield, and I was like behind you, and Parker's approaching,
I can be the dummy.
So like, I would go like this, grab you, pull you in, and then close the shield wall, and then you're killed. But berserkers are these hulking brutes. They're the ones that are bigger, and they normally wield an axe or two, and they're high out of their minds, basically. And
Why
they
do
don't
use an axe instead of a sword?
I mean, I'm getting to that. They use. I don't know exactly what they do, but it's also when you think of a Viking, you think of this warrior. He brandishes an axe or two and nothing else. But in actuality, Vikings were a lot like your soldiers of other countries. They carried a sword and a shield. So most use spears or swords because a sword's really easy to train, really easy to use, and they had a really good sword. Which was ahead of its time. Even now, it still baffles people. It's called the Ulfberht. It is this lightweight sword. They were able to make it longer than your normal sword, and length will always be less length.
What?
You heard swords. Your sword. If my sword is longer than yours, I can reach you from further away, and I can kill you.
Yeah, which is why the spear is the dominant weapon.
Yeah, that's actually
what.
This is
Just use me as a weapon.
No, because see, spears are getting off a little sidetrack, but you take the Macedonian phalanx before under Alexander the Great's father. Their spears were like 14 feet long. So
I'm going to tear something in my shoulder.
probably. But anyways,
What they use for the wood, do you know?
I have no clue. I don't know about the Macedonians, but Scandinavia is like it's literally just you got mountains, rivers, and forests. That's all you got basically. So you're gonna have a lot of wood.
Yeah.
And the Ulfberht is, this really well-made sword. It's longer, it's more flexible, it doesn't weigh as much, all of which is very conducive to becoming a good fighter and, winning your battles. And also, it was formed in a crucible, crucible steel, which was way ahead of its time. I mean, modern historians are, baffled. They have no clue how the Vikings figured this out, and because of their ability to figure out that more carbon and your iron gives you better steel. Well, it kind of was unfair for the rest of the people that they faced, because if your sword's weaker than mine and I hit your sword. Your sword is gonna break and mine isn't, and then you're suddenly weaponless and I can kill you.
No, you can't kill me.
Yeah, I can. And that's their weapons. They also getting onto their gods. There was two different categories of gods. You had the Asir, and you had the Vanir. Both of which, those were the only ones that they had. Starting off with the Asir, coming from Britannica, these were the gods that they lived in Asgard, and
Keep going.
they lived in Asgard, and this is people like Odin, Frigg, Tyr, Thor. With Odin being the Allfather, he's the chief of Asgard, chief of the Aesir. Frigg is Odin's wife. Tyr is the god of war. Thor, I'm sure most people assume he's the god of war or something akin to that.
No.
But
War?
not just lightning. People think he's the god of thunder, lightning, storms.
Movies, bro?
Is he a god of fertility?
Yeah, he is the god of fertility as
Me
well.
too.
He's one of them. A lot of them actually are the god of
Yeah.
fertility. When I was looking at, unironically, I was looking up, I found 3 or 4 that had fertility fall under this
There's
section.
a good amount of fertility gods.
Yeah, and then there was Loki, who is Thor's brother. He's the god of mischief and trickery.
Is he?
Yes, actually, Marvel got that right. You have
They probably didn't
Heimdall.
want to include that Thor was the god of fertility in a superhero movie. So.
Yeah, I know. You have Heimdall. He's the guardian of the Bifrost. Marvel also got that right. And then you
Is he a god
have
of forethought as well? No.
yes, he's able to see everything. You can predict
Okay,
stuff.
yeah, that's what I was asking because I knew that.
Yeah. There's Baldur. He plays a big part despite being only the god of light, joy, and purity. He plays a big part in their mythology. And then you have the Vanir, starting off with who are the other side. The first one that I'm going to talk about is Njord. He is the god of the sea and wind and wealth. Then you have Nerthus, who is the goddess of the earth and harvest. I believe she was also the goddess of fertility for the Vanir.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, I just didn't include that because I already had Thor under that. You have Oder, who, despite this is being a Vanir, it has been some speculation that he is actually just the Vanir version of Odin. So
That makes sense.
yeah, and then you have Freya, goddess of love, beauty, war, and magic, otherwise known as Seder. She's also the goddess. At least she's the goddess. She might also be fertility. I wouldn't be shocked. It's Freya.
I mean, knowing like that type of like mythology would not be.
And then you have Freyr, god of peace, prosperity, fair weather. So, kind of different from Thor.
I think
Fair
you're going
weather.
over enough. We don't need to keep going over all of them. You know.
That's the last one, actually.
Oh.
But continuing on with the gods, there's the event called Ragnarok, which is it translates to the twilight of the gods. It's where most of the gods and most of the giants, otherwise called Jotun, are killed, and the earth goes through a rebirth.
My feet did not leave the ground.
Yeah, the earth goes through a rebirth. Loki causes this. He kills Baldur, and then after the death of Baldur, you have what's called Fimbulwinter, and that goes on for 3 years of eternal winter. And then after that, Fenrir, a massive, ravenous wolf, breaks free of his chains, which were forged. They're invisible, actually. I don't remember exactly why.
Does it taste the sun or the moon?
Do
you remember?
I don't remember. I didn't. But his chains were forged by dwarves, and they're invisible to human
The
eye.
dwarves were quite loaded to the ground, weren't they?
I'm personally a fan of
Probably.
Jordan. I'm not gonna lie.
When they were forging those massive chains.
Yeah, and then you have the fire giant, Surtur, who leads an army out of Muspelheim, also known as the Realm of Fire. And then you have Jormungandr, who is the Midgard serpent. He comes out of the sea. He's the one that he's the picture of the Ouroboros, the snake biting its own tail. It's representing life and death,
They made me move
stuff
2
like that.
steps.
I'm just harassing you.
And he rises out of the sea and he battles Thor. Thor kills him, but dies of his poison shortly thereafter, causing both of them deaths. And then, as this is all occurring, the world's on fire. I believe there's like an eclipse or something. That's what they interpreted as Ragnarok. They saw an eclipse. I think.
So the movies got that wrong.
Maybe.
Right.
That would make
Yeah.
sense, honestly. If that's what they thought right now.
Yeah, and
imagine
so
the
the
sun
world
being
gets set ablaze, and then it submerges underwater, and then a new world is reborn with a new set of gods, and that's the Norse gods. Moving on from the Norse gods, and sometime in the 1900s ish, they began to convert to Christianity. There were a few reasons. Well, one of the big ones though is like. All of this trading with southern Christian realms was caused their religion to be spread more. And also, I'm pretty sure the Christians went to war over it. There's also the German Empire had increased political and religious pressure upon the Vikings to get them to convert. And then you had major figures like King Harald Bluetooth and Olaf Haraldsson. They started to become evangelists. And
No, but we're evangelists.
That's a good question.
they are people who, missionaries. Missionaries is the better word. I couldn't remember it. Missionaries are those who take their religion, whatever it may be, and they go elsewhere trying to spread it and make more people convert and get more people to believe in their religion. So that's kind of what how Bluetooth and Olaf Sigurdsson were.
Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Where do we hear that today?
I don't think that relates to it, but Bluetooth is
No, it does. It does relate.
Bluetooth
to
is the wireless connection between, say, your AirPods.
Do you know the Bluetooth? The symbol for Bluetooth is a Norse symbol, right?
No, I actually didn't know that.
It is. I learned that in I forgot whose class.
That's actually quite interesting. I didn't.
I
I
learned
feel
that.
like Mr. Allen's or something.
It wasn't Mr. Allen's.
It would have been a history class.
Or Mr. Freeman. I feel like Mr. Freeman.
Mr. Freeman, probably.
I don't know. I just remember learning it. Anyways.
Okay, moving on from that, we have some famous Vikings, some of which people aren't even sure if they're real because they've been so mythologized and like turned into a legend. No. Starting off with Ragnar Lothbrok. They think he was a real Viking. He was from like the 700, 800s, somewhere around that time. Not much is known about like his actual time alive because he's been so like mythologized and he's become this like crazy figure, this all-powerful Viking. But he is said to have fought against Charlemagne at some point, and the king of Northumbria in Anglia, which is now England, King Aela. However, King Aela wins eventually. He drops Ragnar Lothbrok into a pit of snakes, poisonous snakes, or venomous, I don't remember. And they kill him.
Poisonous.
Lovely way to go. And then next, you have his son.
Oh my god.
What was the plan? What was the
His name was Ivar Ragnarsson, also known as Ivar the Boneless. He was the son of Ragnar Lothbrok. He led an invasion against East Anglia in 865 AD. Unlike other Vikings who had come before him, they had come to like pillage and burn down and steal loot from these English cities. However, Ivar's whole purpose was to conquer. He wanted to like make this Viking empire or something. Finally, you have Harald Hardrada, who people consider him to be the last true Viking warrior king. Yeah. And he's exactly like what you would picture a Viking. I'm pretty sure he had blonde hair, massive beard. He was also stated to be around 300 plus pounds and ranging anywhere from 7 foot to 7'6". So like he truly is a behemoth. Unfortunately, he was killed in 1066 AD at the Battle of Hastings. He was on the side of the king's brother, Tostig Godwin's son, but their entire force was defeated, partly because Harold died.
So, speaking of Vikings, would you say the ones in How to Train Your Dragon
Okay.
are really... Hey, the new movie is coming out this year, okay?
There's another one?
Yeah,
It's a
they're making a
live-action
live
one.
action.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's supposed to be
true,
real
that's
close to the original.
Yeah.
But anyways, would you say the
I've
ones
seen
in
the
that
trailer, it doesn't
are
look
more
bad.
realistic than the ones that we see in other films?
I mean, it's been a minute since I've watched those. Probably not. I mean, because dragons. But those could be real.
I'm talking. No, I'm not talking dragons. I'm just talking to people. Like,
I know.
would they be?
They were
they're
too
more
big
typical
most of the time. I don't think they were able to get. If I remember, what's his name? The like blacksmither guy.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, the one with like the fake arm and the fake
The
leg.
hook. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Vikings didn't have the ability to make that type of stuff yet, or maybe they did, but probably not.
Do Vikings create last names? I know
Your
there were
last
some of the
name.
first examples, but I don't know.
Your last name followed your father's name,
Yeah.
so let's say you were to have a son, and you were in Viking culture. His last name,
Son of Colin.
his surname would be Collinsson. But were you to have a daughter, her surname would be Colin's daughter.
Oh, that's weird. Oh,
It's
no.
spelled differently than how our daughter is
Oh
spelled
no, I
now.
know that. I've seen that. I'm just saying that's weird.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Do you know if they created the name or just used, or like last names or just used them? Because I genuinely do not remember.
I'm not entirely sure. Like I know you don't talk about Eric the Red with his surname.
Yeah.
You call him Eric the Red, but then you call his son Leif Erikson. You never just say Leif.
Yeah.
So that was that. And moving on to music.
You gotta mention why like Eric the Red is the Red instead of
Oh,
like,
the red
whatever
because he had
song.
his hair was extreme. He had like extremely bright red hair, and he was also like insane. He
Yeah.
killed a bunch of people, and that's why he got exiled to Iceland.
Me
Wasn't
too.
he the founder of Iceland?
Yes, because he got exiled to it.
Seems legit.
Did he come
The
up with the
Lake-
name
the Lake-
Iceland, or?
I don't know who came up with it, but supposedly they named it Iceland so that people would not go there.
Yeah,
Because it's
that's why they
actually the
named
green one. Greenland is actually ice.
So, yeah, I mean, I
They
know
wanted
that much.
people to go to Greenland, so they named it
Yeah,
Greenland.
something like that.
Yeah.
Though that could just be like, what's it called when everyone has like the same memory and they think that it actually is something that didn't happen?
Ooh, psychology column. We
I
took
don't remember what
psychology.
it is. It's like the.
I don't think
It's not the butterfly effect. It has a funny name.
Yeah.
Does it begin with an M?
Yeah, it starts with an M. I don't remember it though.
Mandela effect?
Mandela.
Mandela effect.
That's what
Yeah.
it is.
That could just be where that comes from. I haven't looked into whether or not Iceland is named because they wanted it to think that it was full of ice and Greenland was the opposite. Moving on to music. The first song is called Asya. It's from the Icelandic poem, like saga. It is about, no one knows when it was exactly written, or at least I was unable to find anything on it. And it symbolizes love, recovery, and prosperity, and it's to chase off evil and welcome love. The song is currently being played by Heilung, a neo-folk band originating out of Germany with members from Denmark and Norway as well, but I digress. Then you have Alfad Hirhaiti, which is another song by Heilung. It means Alfad, the names of the Allfather, and it's just different names. It goes by. There's quite a lot. There's way too many to list. So, well, he's like Stormbringer. God.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, he's Stormbringer. The One-Eyed God. I don't remember all of them, but like things like that, and it's all in Old Norse. Then you have this poem, which is currently being used by Wadruna, which is also a Norwegian band. Sonatorik is a 25 stanza poem from a skald, which is a poet, a Norwegian Viking poet. Like that one's. He writes about the loss of his two sons, the first of which was Gunnar, who died of a fever. So, and Colin here thinks that's better. That's a worse way to go than his other son, Bodvar, who died after he drowned in a storm. Personally, I think drowning is worse.
Okay,
but
but when it comes to the fever, you have to physically because you have to lay there and just watch and physically
either
feel
way,
your
both are
body
slow deaths, are
change.
they not?
yeah, I know. You're drowning. You're trying to stay afloat.
Yeah, but a fever is
Your lungs are being filled with water. You physically can't
I
breathe.
feel like
can you?
drowning would be more physically tiring because you're like.
You're having to
But
expel.
do you know why your body has a fever? Not that we're
It's
getting.
for-
Are we
it's like-
getting into the biology? I
we
can
can-
wrap back around this. I can wrap back
Yeah.
around.
I have 2 songs left after this, and then we can get into it.
I'll wrap back around.
Yeah, that's what you can end off with. The next one, Bushlasban. Yes. It's also Icelandic. It is about this witch. She comes into this king's domain, and he doesn't do something for her. And she threatens him with 6 pillars. No one knows exactly what that means. No evidence has been found on what 6 pillars could be. But it's obvious that it was something because the king is actually quite terrified of this witch because she states it. And finally, my last one, wrapping up this Viking section, is Svanrand, which is also by Heilung. Most of these are by Heilung. All but Sonatorik, which is Wardruna, to restate that. It is a song. It chants the names of the different Valkyria. And it just does that. I don't know how to pronounce any of them because, again, it's written in Old Norse.
Old Norse!
Old Norse. Anyways, that's mine.
Also, I do have because a lot of pillars when it comes to older things normally either relate to bindings of some sort, but often amendments to follow and other such things. So a little bit of theory behind that, even though I know nothing. I know genuinely nothing about any of that, so do not quote me on it.
If we want to shift to your topic, Colin, you can go back to talking about
I
fevers.
know. I'm going to that now. So, anyways, the way fevers work is what's a good way to
Don't go on rants, by the way.
Okay, buddy.
My phone's gonna die.
Anyways, that's true. Okay. Anyways, the way fevers work is, as you know, your body heats up to a higher degree with your natural body temperature being around 98.6, which in fact It's probably lower than that now because our average body temperature, if I'm not mistaken, is slowly decreasing. Which is
sorry to interrupt, but do you think that's because like global temperatures are
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I don't really have any like evidence behind this because it's not what I'm gonna talk about for this podcast. But like one thing I did just think about is like how global warming and stuff like that is actually a natural process. I'm sure humans like do stuff to like help accelerate the process, but things like ice ages and global warming and whatnot are actually just a natural process of the earth, just like how the magnetic field switches every like however many years, and that's also actually currently happening. Anyways, the way getting back to that is our natural body temperature might be decreasing to make up for the fact that like the earth is getting warmer, and so it's also just a natural evolutionary process. Anyways, back to fevers.
However, I do want to ask once again: would drowning not be more tiring because you're physically
That's what I'm getting
fighting
to.
stay
Okay,
up?
the way fevers work is your body naturally heats up because it realizes that there's something in the like body that it needs to kill, but the body can't go through everything and find every little thing to kill it. So what does it do? It adapts because that's what humans are unnaturally good at when it comes to stuff. And so what it does is it raises its natural temperature, so your entire body gets hotter, and your body works everything on the cellular process works at like a specific temperature, and so go too low and the process is slow down, go too high and the process is speed up. But if you get too like high, the thing denatures. Denaturing is when the cell like morphs into something that can no longer be used, basically.
So I have a question for you. It kind of pertains to this, but like, you know The Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing is cordyceps has evolved to survive temperatures above like 94 degrees. Do you think that's actually a legit possibility with temperatures rising? Cybertruck.
Cordyceps or
there's forms. There's different forms.
like I mean like, do you think cordyceps would be possible?
We're talking at some point because we're.
I think
We got it, don't worry.
Because we're on, you said our body temperature is decreasing and global temperatures are going up, causing cordyceps the need to evolve to sustain higher temperatures. I don't know. Let's see.
I mean, like, I suppose, like, evolutionary-wise, cordyceps would go on to, like, kill, like, larger things. In theory, it's a possibility, but I doubt we'd see it, like, anywhere near a lifetime. Anyways, back to fevers. It denatures your cells, and when something denatures, it's no longer usable because it's in a, like, the structure changes to something that just cannot, like, work. And so your body raises its natural temperature to denature the things that are, like, causing issues within your body, and that causes those things to denature. The issue is the body will keep at a high temperature when it realizes that there's still things wrong with it. And the issue is your cells can only experience that higher temperature for so long before they themselves start denaturing as well, which is why people can die from like really high fevers and whatnot, or fevers that last a really long time, because your body is literally denaturing itself and like killing itself, which is why I think dying of a fever would probably be worse, because you have to lay there as your body weakens as it literally kills itself trying to kill the thing that's inside of it.
Lovely.
So can we get to your topic now?
Yeah. Anyways, going back to a bit earlier when he was talking about how Vikings were like high and they like all that type of stuff. So what the Vikings specifically, which my topic today is about neurotoxins and other such things. Vikings specifically, they use fly, agara, and like panther cap. The two specific mushrooms is what they mainly use. And so beforehand, they would take the mushrooms, and you know how like Vikings and whatnot see like spirit animals and all that, and they would sit around like campfire and like the smoke and whatnot, and they would take a bunch of stuff and get high and have a bunch of hallucinations. And they would see stuff in the smoke that were animals and spirit animals, and that's where that came from. Anyways, panther caps block GABA receptors. GABA receptors, what they come from? Huh?
What exactly are those?
They're receptors that help with things like, because fly agar was serotonin. GABA, it doesn't block GABA receptors. It acts as an agonist. You missed. Anyways, it acts as an agonist, and an agonist like increases it, so it increases the produce of the GABA receptor. And what that does is it causes hallucinations. It causes like extreme like how do I like excitement per se? Not like it causes arousal, but not in the sense of like adultery type excitement. I mean like bodily processes excitement, so things just speed up and increase and all that type of stuff. And that mixed with fly agara, which fly agara increases serotonin, and what serotonin does is it helps with things like sleep and all that. And so what fly agara does is it inhibits serotonin, and so you feel less tired, you have more hallucinations, you have higher blood pressure, higher excitement once again. And so those two mushrooms combined together basically make it to where which they also cause memory loss. Those two mushrooms together basically mean that you have high hallucinations, you're not going to be feeling whatever happens to you, you're extremely excited, and you're not really like thinking in the right place, and you're probably also going to forget whatever happened to you. And so what happens is they would load up on mushrooms, and then the Vikings, the Vikings, as you talked about,
we're gonna have to move because my phone's about to die and I gotta charge it.
That's wild.
You can keep talking.
Move.
Finish your sentence.
And so the berserkers, they would load up on a bunch of mushrooms and then go and invade like whatever town or whatever it is. And so they would like climb the walls or whatever it may be that it needs. You can just hook it up to a Chromebook.
I don't have the right charger.
Unless
that'll work. That might work.
Just take it out and then put it on things. You can use
My bad, guys. Technical difficulties.
Anyways, you just have to make sure the Chromebook's on.
It is.
Anyways, back to the.
As you were saying.
Anyways, back to berserkers. They would load up on a bunch of mushrooms and invade a town, and while they're invading the town, if they got any cuts, bruises, injured in any sort of way, they genuinely just would not feel it. One, because of the hallucinations, because they have no idea what they're seeing. They're seeing.
They're like just high out of their minds.
Genuinely, they're seeing like sounds, basically, like seeing sounds and smells and crap. Exactly. But they would be high off their mind, and so that's why berserkers are also commonly associated with just like attacking anything in sight, because they would just literally attack anything in sight. They were super excited. They couldn't feel crap, and they were just seeing like stuff that wasn't there, and so they would just go and tear through whatever town it was, attacking not only the enemies but also their own teammates and all that type of stuff.
Keep talking.
And then and like I said, their excitement increases.
Okay. We do the other side.
And so they can't really feel any attacks that are happening, which is why you just have like the common like thought process of them just being like bloodthirsty and just invulnerable to any type of attack, which is also why their enemies like feared them so much, is because you could chop off an arm and they would just keep going like nothing happened. It was just absolutely insane, and they seemed like they had infinite stamina just because of how the like mushrooms made them like so like their body so like excited and crap. It just like it was very interesting. On the topic of like neurotoxins, okay, buddy. On the topic of neurotoxins though, some other like interesting neurotoxins which shocker, I'm about to talk about herpetology. Like snake venom.
Herps.
Venom.
Can you actually remind me what herpetology is? Is it just like amphibians or reptiles as well?
Reptiles and amphibians, because
guys. We learned about this
when they first like did started doing like the levels of taxonomy. They just looked at reptiles and amphibians. Yeah, taxonomy.
Okay.
They just looked at like a reptile. Huh?
What exactly is taxonomy?
It's the like classification system of like living things. I was about to say creatures, but it's literally just everything living. Which does not include parasites, because parasites need a host, and one of the like 7 requirements of to be considered alive is that you have to be able to be like independent per se, and so if you rely on a host, then you're not actually alive. So parasites aren't a living thing technically. Anyways,
I thought that was viruses.
Well, viruses are a type of parasite.
Well, okay, yeah, that's what I mean. Viruses, sorry, not parasites. Which they're kind of similar, but like yeah, parasites like that are actually alive because they do technically are able to live by themselves, just like in a similar fashion of like how you have to like eat something to like be alive. Anyways, parasites are not technically alive. Viruses are not technically alive because they rely on the host to actually like do anything. Anyways. Back to taxonomy. Taxonomy is classification of living things, and when we first started classifying things, we looked at amphibians and we looked at reptiles. Like, yeah, that's close enough. You could probably blame what's his name? Starts with an A. Famous philosopher. I always forget his name.
Edward Cullen.
Doesn't even start with an A.
Sir Christopher Lee.
No. Anyways.
My mom texted me, guys.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Galileo.
I'm kidding.
No. Anyways,
Isaac Newton.
herpetology, and so snake venom. snake venom, I had to do a whole like research project on this, and it's actually kind of interesting. Snake venom most of the time is consistent of two things: neurotoxin and hemoglobin. And hemoglobin are basically a bunch of enzymes, which hemoglobin causes the rot when it comes to snake bites and other such things. But hemoglobin is basically a bunch of enzymes that it just injects you with. Enzymes are things that break down different like parts just like in your body. Like for example, lysosomes, which are things in your cells that consist of like a bunch of enzymes, break down like stuff that like enters your body and whatnot and just like waste around your cells and stuff like that. And that's basically what hemoglobin is. It's a bunch of enzymes that go into your body and just start tearing away at everything in your body. And that's why you have rot happen when like snake bites happen and whatnot, is because of the hemoglobin and then the enzymes go in there and just break everything down in your body, and that causes the rot. Back to the neurotoxin part of snake venom. Neurotoxin is, as the name implies, neurobrain toxin toxicity. And so, neurotoxin, the way snake venom travels through your body is when you get bit, it travels through, I want to say it's your blood system. It might be slightly wrong. No, it's more than likely your blood system. It goes up your spine and into your brain. And what it does is it goes in and acts as a bunch of like inhibitories and other such things in your brain that basically just block a bunch of receptors. And another
receptors is specific.
I mean, one, like, I can't name like a specific receptor. Like one receptor I do know neurotoxin blocks is as it goes like up your body, it also goes into your muscles, and it blocks a receptor in your muscles that allows sodium to enter into your cells. And why that's important is your body, to contract its muscles, actually needs to like intake sodium. That allows the contraction of muscles in your body. And so since it blocks that, sodium can't enter your cells, meaning you can't actually contract your muscles, which is why you have paralysis with snake bites, is because of the neurotoxin. Anyways, the neurotoxin goes up into your brain and it inhibits a bunch of stuff, and brain dead and other such things. And that's why it's so dangerous, because not only does it cause things like rot in your body that will cause you to like lose limbs and stuff, it also causes neurotoxin, which causes paralysis in your body and can literally permanently damage your brain to forever, if not just straight up killing you like most snakes can.
Which snake is that?
Literally most venomous snakes. They act to different degrees, just like toxicity and whatnot has different degrees, and so like different snakes are gonna have different amounts of venom and like different potent venom depending on how.
Snakes don't know how to control it, and they inject too much.
That's kind of a myth, actually.
Really?
Yeah. It's a very common effect. Yeah, it's a very common myth, but they can actually control it just as well.
So where do you think that came from, though?
Probably just from, I mean, I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, one of two things, or even both. One, they were probably a bunch of like baby snake bites, and babies are a bit more like outgoing kind of, and so they probably just try to inject more venom. Baby snakes, likely it's probably because their venom glands are so small that they kind of have to inject all of their venom into stuff to actually kill it. And so that's why adults are more dangerous, because they have bigger venom sacs and can actually inject you with a lot more venom than babies can. Why don't they?
Yeah.
If you could drop a nuke on a town when you can just like throw a bunch of bombs.
Yes.
Yes,
it's a utilization of resources. They don't want to spend all their venom on something that they can easily kill with only like a few drops in comparison.
Take, like, a while to replenish?
But how do they know what they can and can't kill with a certain amount of venom? Do they just have that knowledge in their mind, or
one, instinctual, two, just from learning, trial and error type deal? Like you're like how well things are resistant to toxin most of the time is going to depend.
Honey badgers.
Yeah, most of the time it's going to depend on body size, just because if larger body, it's probably going to take longer to circulate through the body.
You're a demon sent from hell.
Yeah, and then, but some cases are like that, to where like honey badgers and whatnot are super resistant to venom and stuff like that. And
is there like anything in their genes?
Yeah, like I don't remember the specifics, and it's also in a similar way to how anti-venom for snakes and whatnot works. Which there's a bunch of different like ways anti-venom works, but one of the ways, if I'm not mistaken, it works is, like I said, snake venom goes in and blocks receptors in your body. And so like what stuff like anti-venom and stuff like that, some of them is they send in fake receptors for the snake venom to bind to, and so then you don't really get the neurotoxin effect. You still get the hemoglobin, because the hemoglobin does not care. It's just going to like tear away at everything in your body. It's not like specifics. But what like anti-venom stuff like that does, if I'm not mistaken, which I don't know if it's all of them either, is they send in a bunch of fake receptors for the snake venom to bind to, which is another thing. That's why anti-venom doesn't work. No, anti-venom doesn't work against like already active symptoms. If you're already feeling the paralysis, that paralysis isn't gonna magically go away. It'll just like anti-venom will just slow down the process of the venom, and so that's why that works. It's because they're already bound to the receptors and already causing the issues.
This would be a fire photo. I'm not gonna
Anyways, that's
Loki
crazy.
would be.
Anyways, Venom, a lot of fun, unironically. I can also like quickly go. I don't know exactly like dart frog, but like something pretty interesting about dart frogs from like domesticated ones is dart frogs actually get their poisonous ability from what they eat because they release the toxin of the like ants and insects that they eat from like out of their skin because they have to provide mucus so they don't like dry out and crap. And so they need the mucus so they can like breathe through their skin and all that fun stuff that amphibians like to do. Yeah. And so when they aren't able to eat those insects that like allow them to be poisonous, then they aren't poisonous, which is why a lot of domesticated dart frogs you can actually pick up and hold and whatnot, with caution, only if you're allowed, unless you're a professional, you know what you're doing.
This guy ain't a professional. Don't listen to him.
Because obviously they're gonna know. You don't just want to pick up a random dart frog that's like in a container somewhere.
Same.
Anyway, real. They're beautiful. Anyways.
Same.
Okay, buddy. That's how their poison works. So domesticate dart frogs that are in captivity, unless the provider is feeding them like poisonous insects, aren't actually going to be poisonous to the touch, because of the fact that they aren't eating those poisonous insects. Something I should like quickly go way back to before Parker gets on with his thing is that the only way those fungi work for the Vikings is when they ingest them. If they just like touch them, then they're not really gonna have those effects.
Hey Colin, I got a joke for you. Why was the mushroom invited to the party? Because he was a fun guy.
Thank you. And I didn't get dragged off the screen this time. I think that's an improvement. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Parker did. I didn't.
I got thrown into the rock.
That's all I'm saying.
I did.
Anyways, the snake venom is extremely cool though. Unironically, the way it works and crap.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I just landed.
You say with a limp.
My bad.
I just landed.
No,
funny.
snake venom is incredibly cool. It's so.
I might not. I probably shouldn't have thrown you onto the grapple.
No, I'm fine.
Where'd all the forks go?
He packed up the fork.
Yeah.
Because he's a loser.
Oh, well, I
So
thought
you
we were
stopped
moving,
stepping
but.
But end off your.
Are you actually good, Parker?
Yeah.
Anyways, like I said, the Vikings use panther caps and fly gar, which is something interesting about fly gars. They used to be used as fly poison, so that's kind of funny.
Is that where the name comes from?
Yeah, probably. I don't know what a gara stands for because I couldn't find something. If I did like slightly more research, I'd probably be able to find it. That's probably where the fly part comes from. Anyways, Vikings would use that, and then snake venom is consistent.
Pausing after saying
Because he
that?
said they were poisonous earlier. Anyways, snake venom.
I don't remember the difference.
Okay, buddy. Anyway, snake venom is consistent of hemoglobins, which just tear through your body and cause the rot, and it's consistent of neurotoxins, which causes paralysis and other possible permanent issues within your brain. And poison dart frogs get their poison from insects, which is pretty interesting. You wanna say something, Parker?
Nah. Anyways, let's get this guy out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, get out of here. I said get out. Okay, guys. Now we're moving to my topic. My topic, right? My
Anyways, back
topic.
to snake non.
We were not talking about you. My topic. Now, while it doesn't exactly connect to theirs, well, it might connect to Spencer's in some ways, but it does not connect to Colin's because Colin chose quite the interesting topic.
What do you mean I chose an interesting?
Connect to mine.
I mean, it was interesting. So my topic's the loss of viewership in the NBA, right? Now we think NBA players, we think LeBron, Michael Jordan, Kobe, known as the Black Mamba, which can connect to herpetology, snake venom, poison.
Venom.
Black mambas are one of the most dangerous snakes and one of the most venomous snakes.
Aren't they poisonous?
Yeah, they're poisonous, aren't they?
It's poison. It's poison, right? Ow. Okay, so we're talking about loss of viewership in the NBA. Let me get to my point, okay? So there are many factors that are affected by this that can affect many players, not just LeBron, okay? Not just our glorious king. But there are many factors due to loss of viewership in the NBA that can connect to in the NBA players, specifically LeBron, because he is our main topic. Right. So, what are y'all doing? Loss of viewership in the NBA can lead to lower endorsement values, smaller contract negotiation leverage. Leverage is like how much decision making the players have when it comes to like their contracts being decided on, you know, not just going with what the team's willing to give them, which tends to be less than what they want most of the time. But it can also lead to less media coverage. Now, as you know, the NBA is already nationally televised, right?
Not all games, right?
Not all games. A good bit of like the
If
better
you're like
teams.
a popular player, like you're a big game team.
The better teams and players tend to have nationally televised games, and they still have quite the large audience.
should have a session of biology.
However, a lack of change of rules, plenty of rules get on the fans' nerves, and so do the refs. The referees are awful, okay? Just ask any NBA fan. No one likes the refs, okay?
I don't. I'm an NBA fan.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a free throw merchant.
So is Giannis and Trey.
I don't care. But changes of rules and
like 2 more free throws.
events such as the All-Star game. The All-Star game has led
boring.
to... It's incredibly boring for most fans. It's led to the most loss in viewership.
What about the dunk contest and the like?
But I'm getting to that later. Do not worry. But a lack of change in the All-Star game and rules, it upsets many fans. Meaning they're not going to watch. Right? You're not going to watch something you don't like. Like, for example, let's just say Colin here. Colin doesn't like basketball. Does he watch it? No. You don't watch stuff you don't like, guys. And if you do, I kind of feel bad for you.
Self-inflicted pain be like.
Now, I can quickly get my topic over with because I'll just connect it to LeBron and the NBA players. Now, for lower endorsement value, which is a big factor in loss of viewership, of course, our king, LeBron James, his net worth, according to Forbes, is already over $1.2 billion US dollars.
I thought he became a billionaire like last year. Is it already 1.2?
It's 1.2 billion, which is actually top 3,000 in the world. Once again, this is according to Forbes. Now,
is Forbes a credible source?
I found the source credible.
Okay. Yeah, I do too.
Now, of course, lower endorsement value, it's not going to affect LeBron as much, right? Obviously, he's a billionaire. He's popular. He earns his big bucks, right? He earns them.
And he's also on like what, a $50 million deal with a no trade clause.
Yeah, his contract in the NBA as well as many other endorsements, which I'll get into later. Now, another thing is lower jersey and merchandise sales. Fewer viewers means fewer sales, right? Simple.
Yeah,
okay?
the guys know about that.
Yeah. Example, Dallas Mavericks traded away their star player, their best player on the team. And now everyone's giving the manager death threats, saying sell the team.
Be sure to check on your Maverick friends.
Yeah, if you have a friend who's a fan of the Dallas Mavericks, check on them, because fans are saying sell the team. They're giving the owner death threats, and they are not buying merchandise.
What?
In fact, they've already sold out their season tickets.
Didn't they raise them too?
Well, no, not sold them out. Yeah, that's what I meant.
They
They
raised
raised their season ticket prices
after trading Luka,
because
right?
demand is so low.
Isn't that economics like we
Supply and demand economics, yada yada. Don't listen to him. Now, according to NBAStore.com,
listen here.
LeBron has some of the most jersey sales of all time. I think he's top 3, maybe 1 or 2.
I'm sure Jordan's still ahead of him.
I believe Jordan might be ahead of him. So LeBron's about 1, 2, or 3. He's in that range. Now, and another thing I found, according to ESPN, the Lakers, which is the team LeBron plays for, have the most jersey sales of all time. Right, so, of course, and LeBron's had a massive effect on that.
A massive effect.
Massive. Okay?
Do you think that'll affect every, taper and fade?
Shut up. Now, this effect, however, it affects more than just LeBron, right? It affects the entire NBA because they're earning less revenue because not as many people are buying their stuff, right? Less stuff bought, less money earned.
And
right?
Then the WNBA can't function because they live off of the NBA.
Exactly. Now, with less money, this leads to smaller contract negotiation leverage. Players don't have as much freedom when picking their contracts.
And they shouldn't.
Why is that, Spencer?
Because I think that the players should not have that much control. I don't like the idea of player empowerment.
Well, Spencer's for this. I'm neither for nor against. I'm just bringing up the topic, okay? I'm here to inform, not to argue.
No one should be getting paid.
I'm here to inform, not to argue.
I don't care. I don't care that Shai is my GOAT. He should not be getting paid $80 million when he signs his next contract.
So
a year.
So of course, less
All because he's
negotiation
6'6".
leverage. Really, the owners just don't want to pay the players as much because they're not earning as much, right? However, it's unlikely that this will take much of an effect because the NBA just did increase their salary cap for
Wasn't there a new CBA?
the what?
New
More money
CBA?
is what I'm
The
hearing for
broadcasting thing?
I think so.
Do you think that there'll be another lockout if they try to decrease things?
No,
Especially with the new second apron?
no, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, like, max contracts are like, you have to be really good. You can't put someone like BI or a MPJ on a max deal anymore.
True. However,
That's Brandon Ingram and Michael Porter Jr.
yeah. However, once again, the NBA salary cap for the upcoming 2025 to 2026 season increased to 10% not that long ago, and I found that from ESPN. Got plenty of notifications about it. And according to CBS Sports, LeBron actually took around a $3 million pay cut, which $3 million less than his expected contract, which ended up in his team trading for star player Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks, as we mentioned before, right? Now, Luka Doncic was on a 5-year, $215 million contract. Right,
should be
5
paid
years,
that much?
$215 million. You can do the math on how much that is. Which transfers with him from the Mavericks to the Lakers and gives him an average annual salary of $43 million, according to CNBC. And in return, the Mavericks got star player Anthony Davis, also known as the Eyebrow, because he's got a unibrow. You got that
His
right.
name was the brow, not the eyebrow.
The Brow, yeah. I got mixed up. It's okay. But he's nicknamed the Brow because he's got a unibrow and it looks magnificent, okay? Don't judge him. And along with some other players. What?
He's also injury prone.
Yeah, he's very injury prone. But he recently signed a 3-year, $186 million extension with the Lakers, which kept him I'm sorry, I can't talk. It was supposed to keep him with the Lakers up until 2028, but now he was traded, so he's stuck with the Mavericks up until 2028. Because if you don't know how NBA trades work, contracts usually transfer over years-wise. However, teams can plan on how to split the money in those contracts.
Renegotiate or buy out, like the Clippers did with the Nets did with Ben Simmons, and the Clippers signed him.
They can do that. Yeah, they can buy them out, which means they just pay them all the money they're owed, and then they're not on the team anymore. They become a free agent, meaning they can negotiate with any team and end up signing with them, right? Now, plenty of players have taken pay cuts because they want their owners to sign more star talent. Players such as Dwayne Wade, Dirk Nowitzki, and James Harden have all taken pay cuts in order to help their team sign better talent. Because
Didn't Jalen Brunson do it as well?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into him. But because the cap has been so low. With this low of a cap, it's hard to maintain, like, your star players, right? Like Klay Thompson on the Warriors. He was entering his last few years of his contract with them, becoming a free agent. The Warriors offered him 2 years, $24 million per year, correct? To stay on the team. However, the Mavericks offered him 2 years, $50 million. Therefore, he went there because they were paying him more. And now,
the Lakers.
now he's probably regretting his decision since Luka Doncic has been traded and Kyrie Irving tore his ACL about a month ago and is out for the season. Now, of course, the Warriors weren't able to pay him as much because most of their money were focused on star players Steph Curry and Draymond Green. Draymond Green, known for his violence, has punched many players before, kicked them in areas you don't want to be kicked. We'll just say that.
Steven Adams, no.
And now another factor, less media coverage and influence, okay? Declining viewership can reduce LeBron's cultural and business impact, okay? As I was saying before, the NBA is still nationally televised, okay, and has quite the large audience. I'm sure you could go up to most people, I'd say a solid % of boys in our school, girls too, I'm just saying, main audience tends to be guys, no sexism here, okay? You could go up to most guys in our school and they were likely to be a fan of some NBA team. Now, one reason a lot of people are leaving is no player really tries in the All-Star game, okay? The players don't play defense. There's not much attempts on offense to do much. And this is apparently due to risk of injury because the All-Star game can be seen as meaningless. However, fans pay an average cost of $3,989 with the lowest ticket cost being around $1,200, and I found that according to a site known as Axios. And that's a lot of money to be paying for a ticket to go and watch players not try. Okay, fans have the right to be upset. Okay, fans have the right to be upset when they pay that much money to see a lack of trying by some of the best players, some of their favorite players in the NBA, including 20-time All-Star LeBron James. Now, the All-Star game, its attendance wasn't bad. It had 17,539 fans in attendance at Chase Center in, I believe it's in San Francisco. It's the Golden State Warriors Stadium. Now, its maximum capacity for basketball events is 18,064 people, okay? So you hear 17,539 out of 18,064. That doesn't sound bad, does it? But then you think TV viewership as well. It shrunk 13% from last year. Just more than 4.7 million people went and watched the All-Star game this year compared to the 5.4 million who watched last year. That's around 700,000 people less watching. And this is according to Yahoo Sports, okay? Another problem has been lack of talent in the dunk competition, okay?
Bring back Aaron Gordon.
Mostly the dunk competition has consisted of mostly smaller name players in the NBA G League, which is like the minor leagues, or just players with lesser known names rather than star talent who have the talent. They just don't show it off once again, due to risk of injury in a meaningless event that fans pay thousands for. Now, of course, there's still events such as the three-point competition and the skills challenge, which, you know, those still contain of some star players. Like this year, Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama, one veteran player who is well known, and another one, a third year player.
He's a second-year player.
Second-year player who is very well known. So while these still maintain talent, the main game and as well as the dunk competition either don't have the talent or just don't have the players that you would want to see or the trying, right? Now, this can also lead to fewer sponsorship deals for players such as LeBron. Now, LeBron, he's already in plenty of commercials, right? We've all seen him. Progressive Insurance, Ruffles Chips, Sprite Cranberry.
Ruffles?
Yeah.
Yes.
Even McDonald's.
I love
Right.
McDonald's.
He has his own Ruffles flavor. I'm sure you can find him
McDonald's
What
somewhere.
about the Angel Reese special?
WNBA player, different story. Now another thing, less media coverage and influence, right, can also lead to limiting players' abilities to voice their opinions on things such as social issues, business matters, and even personal opinions. Now, LeBron, in this case, I went and checked myself. On Instagram, he has 159 million followers, right?
That's a lot.
Twitter, he has 53 million.
Why is it?
Or X. Some people just don't have other social medias, you know.
That's true.
Now, obviously, people will see his opinions, but will they really be voiced, you know?
You know, that's actually crazy that he has 153 because that's almost half of all of the population in America.
That is
kind of crazy.
To be fair, I doubt all of his followers are American, though.
I know, but
Really?
like most of them are, considering he is American and basketball is mainly an American sport. I mean,
Now-
I know there's like FIBA.
China.
Now, nonetheless, LeBron's so popular that his popularity has basically ascended his NBA talent, right? Even with the taper in viewership, LeBron's popularity is on a rise. With
Is this still rising, actually?
yes, especially it can be seen on social media such as TikTok, where there are plenty of edits of him, as you've seen in our intro and outro of our last podcast,
True.
which will also be in this podcast. You'll see them. There's also been song remixes on TikTok. This section of TikTok has become known as Bronify. Please stop hitting my head. Bronify. It's a Spotify spinoff. They're just songs such as, I'll just bring up one that's
Me when I'm not.
Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, right? That one has become remixed, as well as plenty of others that I could
My
name.
Sunshine song.
Huh?
That
That one hasn't been
one's
remixed.
LeBron's.
It's just been there's just been images of him paired with that. That one hasn't been remixed.
I didn't do
There's
that.
also a major focus on him on by sports Instagram accounts such as ESPN, CBS Sports, NBA on ESPN, and plenty more. I would know, I follow them, right?
Wild.
And then he's got plenty of Reddit threads. There's r/LeBron, r/LeBron memes, r/LeBron spotted, which is actually just him being spotted in like ads, random things on the internet. He's got plenty, okay? But LeBron's popularity, it's still growing despite the loss in viewership of NBA games, okay? So don't think just because, hey, they're losing viewership, LeBron's not going to be as popular. LeBron's still popular. He's plenty popular.
Let go of my stick.
No. LeBron's still plenty popular. However, the loss in NBA viewership has been able to drastically affect his career.
No one's bones are being broken.
Mine are. Look, I broke it. See, it's broken.
And now I have a better weapon.
But now, would you guys like to connect your topics to LeBron since I did mine?
Well, snake
No,
venom
see,
kind of like
penance is
Black
due.
Mamba, and Black Mamba is one of the most venomous snakes on the planet of Earth. Not the most venomous, actually. I don't remember what that goes to. But the Kobe is called the Black Mamba, and Black Mamba played a lot against LeBron and whatnot. So that's kind of how they relate,
He
honestly.
played 22 regular season. Kobe and
fact
LeBron
that you know
played 22
games are
regular
games.
season games against each other, and they finished with a record of 11-11.
That's
meaning
wild.
11 losses and 11 wins each.
That is
So
wild
they finished with
that
a
you know that.
tied record. There's no clear tiebreaker there.
You heard it here. The Black Mamba can, in fact,
Okay,
fight.
okay, y'all.
You heard it
You
here.
know what that
LeBron
means, guys?
can,
It
in
means
fact,
Kobe's
fight
the GOAT
equally
and not
against
LeBron.
Black Mamba.
Blasphemy.
I know. Stop!
He's
You're
as
gonna hurt
strong
me.
as one of the
You're gonna hurt
strongest
me. I'm a
snakes. Not the
twig.
strongest snake,
Literally.
honestly. That might be
I
the
have a-
Titan.
Wait,
Almost
wait.
the Titanic
I
Bubble.
wanna-
Those
I
are
wanna say
extinct.
something
Those are
real
really
quick,
extinct
Colin. Hold on, I
snakes.
want to say something. Parker, can you come into frame with your stick, please? Okay, so this is Parker. This stick is Parker.
Oh.
This stick is Colin.
Now we're referring to
Wait,
build,
but
of course. You
that's
see me,
old.
I'm skinny. Colin's got a sleeper build, okay? He hides it behind that jacket, but you gotta pay to see that. Okay,
You gotta
that's,
pay to
that's
see my
pay to
elbows,
see. You've only
yeah.
seen it once in class, and that was because we were wearing color coordinating shirts, right?
Peer
like
pressure.
But you gotta pay to see that, okay? Colin's arms are off limits to the general public.
Specifically my elbows. Because like you can see like my forearm, but I'm not gonna show you my elbows.
But
Off
anyways,
limits.
keep going, Colin.
Anyways, like I mean, I was pretty much done. Like I said, the Black Mamba. Something interesting I do want to talk about is Komodo dragon venom, which I kind of forgot about while I was talking about Komodo dragon venom is super interesting.
Spencer. You're gonna kill me.
Because of the fact that like there's a
Going
lot
to
of
die.
controversry behind it, because a book a long time
is
ago,
hot.
a guy
This is her
very
last
briefly mentioned that it was like
There's a
bacteria or
police
whatever
station
because of
right
how
down
nasty
there.
their mouths are. Which is completely untrue. They actually have one of the cleanest like
department's right there.
blood and like mouth in general. Which the only reason you see a bunch of photos with like a bunch of saliva is because they have a lot of saliva because they swallow their food in like
Bro! Guys, I'll save you! You've been saved, don't worry. Oh god, what happened? The camera seems off. It's okay, guys, I have you, don't worry. We're gonna venture with me back around the pavilion so you can go back to talking to everyone's favorite, Colin Bellafato. Who doesn't love Colin? I know I do. No, we're not cutting that.
Okay.
Who
Anyways,
cuts
back
that?
to the Komodo dragon. They had the controversy behind it is the fact that a guy like very briefly mentioned that their mouths are like full of bacteria just because of like they produce a bunch of saliva just so they can swallow like gigantic like hairy chunks of like food and whatnot. And that's what most of their food is, and that's why they produce so much saliva.
Spencer, stop
Anyways,
with the stick.
They have like they don't actually use bacteria. They found like venom glands, or one guy found venom glands, and he was trying to put like that research out. But the reason that's not really like focused on is because a lot of like big.
Uppies. Come on, uppies.
Okay, buddy. A lot of like big like herpetology people.
Herps.
They would be like discredited if it came out that they were venomous rather than having like a bunch of bacteria that kills things. And so that's why there's a bit of controversy behind like whether they're back to like venom and whatnot. Anyways, like I said, you can kind of relate LeBron to the fact that he went up against Kobe, which Kobe's nickname was Black Mamba. Black Mamba had a bunch of neurotoxins.
So this is more of an indirect connection than a direct connection.
You could say so. Yeah.
However, now Spencer, to finish us off as you
Finish
started,
us off.
connect to LeBron.
Yes, there was one thing I forgot to mention about Vikings and their arts lifestyle is that they are very fit, and they were some of the first people to like incorporate recovery into their like daily lives. You know, when you're like working out, you have your actual workout. You know how
Aiden knows how it is.
certain people in our class like Aiden
Real.
will know that you don't work out the same muscle every day in a row, and you have to take rest days. The Vikings knew this.
Explain.
Okay, I don't care. The Vikings knew this, and so they took very good care of their body. all their working out, their very physical outdoor lifestyle, and their diet. And you know who else takes very good care of their body?
LeBron!
Okay, better.
No, he really does.
Energy.
He uses like ice baths. He has these cryo things. He has a personal chef to augment his diet. And it's speculated he spends from $500,000 upwards every year on preserving his body, which is why he has been able to play in the league for so long at such a high level.
That's fair, honestly.
And
you
that
literally
is how
are
I
what you
connect
need, by
my
the way.
source to LeBron.
So much time is going on. But anyways, this is how all our topics work and how they connect to LeBron. Please don't hit my legs with that stick. But this is how our topics work. This is how they connect to LeBron. This has been another episode of How Does This Affect LeBron's Legacy?
And they got Luka Doncic, A. Reeves, and then LeBron.